entertaining, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It's Friday, the 29th of August, 2025, and we're on to program number 1439 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, of course, in addition to radio, 101.1 FM, you can also get us at our website, rcistlucia.com, and we are also streaming live on Facebook. You just have to search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. Now, for today, I want to send out some birthday greetings. First to Miss Alicia Khan, happy birthday to you. Hope you're having a wonderful birthday celebration. To Mr. Jermaine Preville, happy birthday to you, sir. Hope it's a great and wonderful birthday. And also to Mr. Jerry George, that's Jerry with a G, not Jerry with a J. He is the, to distinguish him as the head of the St. Lucia IT Association, Mr. Jerry George. Happy birthday to you, sir. Now, of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And our WhatsApp number is 724-0008. A bit of history for today. On this day in the year 1825, Portugal recognized the independence of its former colony, Brazil. In the year 1842, on this day, the United Kingdom and China signed the Treaty of Nanking, ending the First Opium War. And if we get back into more recent times, in 1949, on this day, the Soviet Union secretly performed its first successful nuclear weapons test at Semipalatinsk test site in northern Kazakhstan. And on this day in 2005, Hurricane Katrina made its second and third landfalls as a Category 3 hurricane, devastating much of the Gulf Coast from Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle, killing more than 1,836 people and causing over $115 billion in damage. We now turn to the dish of the day.
Every bed in our hospitals tells a story of someone's mother, someone's brother, someone's friend. And when that story of care is complete, it's time for the next chapter, home. But too often, discharged patients are left waiting hours, days, weeks, sometimes months, not because they want to stay, but because no one comes. We understand life gets busy, but every extra day they wait means another patient, perhaps in pain, perhaps in crisis, can't get the bed they desperately need. So when the call comes that your loved one is ready, please be ready too. Pick them up, bring them back to the comfort of family, where healing truly continues. Because caring doesn't end at discharge, it continues with you. A message from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
Welcome back to the Lunchroom here on Radio Caribbean International. Of course, we do hope that you're having a pretty good day. And for those of you who went out to the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground yesterday, certainly you would not have been disappointed with a wonderful game of cricket. Compliments the St. Lucia Kings up against the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. And yesterday, in fact, brought victory to the St. Lucia Kings. And some wonderful performances out in the field, ensured that they were able to contain the Patriots, who went into bat first, to a score of 177 runs, which they made pretty easily at the end of the day in response, of course, and seeing a half century by the Kiwi Tim Seifert as well. Some good performances coming out of the home team, home side, homeboys, Mr. Johnson Charles, who made 47 runs, and a very useful knock by Mr. Akeem O'Geist, who has been playing some very wonderful cricket, very lovely technical cricket, finding the gaps, not being just about the big hitting, but really, in fact, playing some wonderful, wonderful shots out in the field. So we do congratulate the St. Lucia Kings, and they, of course, have brought up themselves to being the top of the leaderboard right now, the scoreboard, the rankings, with, I think, 8 points today, just edging out the Antigua Barbuda Falcons, and they will, in fact, be playing that side come Sunday morning. And they were not able to play the Falcons early on because of rain, each of them getting a point. But in the upcoming match, an opportunity to, in fact, defeat the Falcons on home ground and hopefully keep and maintain that top position in the rankings. Of course, they want to certainly make it to the playoffs, get a spot in there. That is certainly the objective for the time. Now, of course, yesterday we also saw the wonderful performance by St. Lucia's, the world's fastest woman, Julian Alfred, and she clocked in 10.76 on the 100 meters over in Zurich as part of the Diamond League, maintaining her title as the women's 100 meters champion for the Diamond League. And kudos to her, congratulations to her, and it's certainly wonderful continued performance, and we certainly have to thank her for continuing to put in the effort, continuing to be dedicated, to be training on a regular basis, to looking at where she needs to be, and of course thanks no doubt to her coaches as well, who are continuing to support her efforts out in their track. And we definitely are continued to be thankful for the privilege of having a Julian Alfred out there representing us, and a remarkable feat that a country so small can be receiving the kind of awareness of its flag being recognized in the world now by Julian Alfred. It's certainly a remarkable singular achievement that she continues to do well in, and we do hope that we can see the amplification of other Julian Alfreds out there, individuals who definitely want to follow in her footsteps from right here in St. Lucia. And we know that there are a number of them who are trying and their very, very best to keep at it. And they certainly do need the kind of support and drive and zeal, and no doubt getting some of the encouragement and pointers and tips from their very own. Those can go a very, very long way as well. So kudos to the efforts in that regard. And let's hope that we can continue to be present on the world map. Now, of course, changing gears a little bit, the Caribbean is being looked at quite a lot these days. And that is because of some ramping up of interest in the Caribbean Sea off the coast of Venezuela. And that has certainly caused a lot of concern in that regard. And I think we do have a very interesting piece coming out of TLDR on YouTube. They produce some good analysis, giving context to a lot of geopolitical issues that are impacting the world. And they produced this one looking at the issue as to whether, in fact, the United States might invade Venezuela. Now, of course, we've seen recently, excuse me, the matter of invasions in respect of Ukraine, for example. We saw the matter of Russia invading Ukraine. First, back in around 2014, we saw the invasion of Crimea. And then, of course, now we've seen Russia full-out war in Ukraine, attempting to take control over Ukraine, first aiming at Kyiv, the capital, looking to have a quick hit at the head of the country, the regime in place there, and hoping to achieve that. That was not successful, and changing plans somewhat, or maybe it was always part of a plan B, to take territory towards the east of the country, in the especially in the Donbass region of Ukraine. And of course, we've seen other issues with respect to invasion, and we've heard a lot of suggestions by the current president of the United States about the matters of the United States and Greenland. That was very topical, and of course, the whole concept of the Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States has certainly raised some eyebrows in terms of U.S. foreign policy and what the U.S. may or may not do. Of course, it's not the first time. The U.S. has invaded many countries in the region in the past. And we can think of Cuba, we can think of Puerto Rico, we can think of Haiti, and perhaps most recently, we can think of the Grenada Revolution and the invasion of Grenada in the early 1980s. Of course, following the assassination of the Prime Minister there, Maurice Bishop. Now, as to what is going to happen right now in respect of Venezuela, that is of course where there is a lot of pondering and analysis. And I thought this was a very interesting little piece by TLDR, this outfit that does some level of analysis on geopolitics. So let's take that in at this time.
Last week, the US announced it would be sending 3 warships and some 4,500 troops to the Venezuelan coast. This sparked some anxiety inside Venezuela that Trump could be preparing for a full-scale invasion, something he's expressed an openness to in the past. And on Friday, Venezuela's acting president, Nicolas Maduro, asked ordinary Venezuelans to enlist in militias, before deploying thousands of Venezuelan troops to the Venezuela-Colombia border. So in this video, we're going to take a look at Trump's long-standing interest in invading Venezuela, and whether it could actually happen this time. In the latest issue of our magazine, Too Long, we dive deep into the current state of America, discussing our real thoughts on the state of American democracy, soft power, universities, and the countries that could steal their crown, from China to the EU. Find out more about Too Long, the End of the American Order, by clicking the link in the description. So, probably the first thing to say is that Trump has actually threatened to invade Venezuela multiple times in the past. When Trump first took office in 2017, Venezuela was engulfed in crisis. The country was suffering with a long-running economic crisis, and in January 2017, Maduro's government abruptly pulled out of a dialogue with the Venezuelan opposition and began arresting opposition politicians. This sparked massive anti-government protests across the country, which escalated later in the year when Maduro announced his intention to rewrite the constitution, thus nullifying the upcoming presidential election and allowing him to stay in power indefinitely. And it was about this time that Trump apparently became interested in an invasion. According to CNN, on August the 10th, Trump floated a full-scale invasion during a closed-door meeting discussing America's Venezuela policy, only to be talked out of it by his then National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, on the grounds that it could backfire and was widely opposed by America's regional allies. Nonetheless, a day later, on August the 11th, Trump said he, quote, wasn't going to rule out a military option when it came to Venezuela, and White House spokespeople continued to insist that, quote, all options were on the table throughout his first term. Obviously, this didn't happen, and the Trump administration instead pursued a policy of so-called maximum pressure, offering a $15 million reward for any information leading to Maduro's arrest, imposing massive sanctions and refusing to recognize Maduro as the legitimate president. This didn't really work, insofar as Maduro didn't step down or make any meaningful concessions, and towards the end of his term, Trump ratcheted up the rhetoric, telling Fox News in May 2020 that, quote, if we ever did anything with Venezuela, I wouldn't send a small little group. No, it would be called an army. During the presidential election campaign later that year, there were reports that Marco Rubio, who was a senator at the time but has since become Trump's Secretary of State, suggested an invasion during at least 2 meetings with senior White House officials. And John Bolton, who was Trump's national security advisor between 2018 and 2019, published a book wherein he claimed Trump said that invading would be, quote, cool, because Venezuela is apparently, in Trump's words, really part of the United States. At the time, Bolton's allegations felt somewhat far-fetched, but they feel more plausible in light of Trump's annexationist rhetoric towards Canada and Greenland early in his second term. Once Trump had left office, reports emerged that, in 2019, he'd tried to coordinate an invasion with Argentina's then-president Mauricio Macri, with Argentinian special forces supporting a US-led multinational force. Colombia's president, Gustavo Petro, also claimed that Trump had talked to his predecessor, Ivan Duque, about invading Venezuela via Colombia. And in 2023, Trump said, quote, when I left, Venezuela was about to collapse. We would have taken over it. We would have kept all that oil. For context, Venezuela has the world's largest proven oil reserves, but oil production in the country has been hampered by chronic political and economic turmoil, which has, in turn, been exacerbated by massive US sanctions, plus the fact that Venezuelan crude is particularly heavy and thus more difficult to process. Unsurprisingly, most people expected Trump to take a hardline stance on Venezuela again in his second term, and originally it looked like things were heading in that direction. Tensions spiked in January when Maduro suggested that Venezuela, with the help of Brazil, should invade Puerto Rico, an unincorporated territory and self-governing commonwealth of the US, in order to, quote, liberate its people. A few days later, Axios reported that Trump's team was planning on pursuing a policy of regime change in Venezuela, in large part because they blamed Maduro and his chronic mismanagement for the massive migration outflows Venezuela has experienced in recent years. For context, some 8 million people, roughly a quarter of Venezuela's population, have fled Maduro's regime in the past decade, with many of them going to the US. Somewhat surprisingly, though, there was then a period of relative calm, and in July it looked like relations might be on the up after the two countries completed a large-scale prisoner swap with the help of El Salvador, and the Trump administration gave Chevron, an American oil company, the green light to resume oil production inside Venezuela. However, in the past few weeks, tensions have skyrocketed. This all kicked off in early August, when the US increased the reward on Maduro to $50 million, having previously accused him of heading up the Cartel of the Suns, a Venezuelan crime syndicate recently designated by the US as a terrorist group. In response, Maduro's foreign minister Ivan Hill dismissed the announcement as an attempt to distract from Trump's Epstein-related woes, and Maduro himself dared Trump to arrest him in a nationally televised speech. Then, last week, the US deployed 3 warships along with around 4,500 soldiers, including 2,200 Marines, to an area off the coast of Venezuela, nominally to counter drug cartels. This apparently sparked some anxiety inside Venezuela that the US was preparing an invasion, and on Friday, Maduro called on ordinary Venezuelans to enlist in national militias to defend against the, quote, imperialists. On Monday, Reuters then reported that the US was deploying additional assets to the region, prompting Venezuela to deploy 15,000 troops to regions along the Colombia-Venezuela border and open talks with Colombia's defense ministry. So, could it actually happen? Could Trump actually invade Venezuela? Well, to be honest, no, almost definitely not. For starters, while 4,500 troops might sound like a lot, it's nowhere near enough for an invasion. Venezuela is a large country, with a population of about 30 million people, and in 2018, the Council on Foreign Relations assessed that an American military intervention in Venezuela would require at least 100,000 troops, and would most likely end in, quote, disaster. It's worth comparing this to previous US interventions in South America. The 1983 invasion of Grenada, for instance, which had a population of just 100,000 people, involved over 7,000 troops, while the 1989 invasion of Panama, which had a population of about 2 million people, involved some 30,000 troops, some of whom were already in position because the US already controlled the Canal Zone. Similarly, a limited strike looks unlikely because, well, it's not really clear what it could achieve. Ultimately, this looks more like saber-rattling than anything else, and is worth keeping in mind that both Maduro and Trump have an incentive to oversell what's happening to distract from their domestic troubles. Now, the US's deployment of warships has been covered thoroughly across the media landscape.
Yeah, thanks very much for that piece. As I said, YouTube video TLDR, which gives quite a little bit of analysis on where things are at. So kudos to them. Of course, Venezuela and the target in question, quite a lot of oil. In fact, the world's largest proven oil reserves. And of course, it is in the Western Hemisphere, which makes it a very, very attractive target and a very important country by virtue of that. Of course, they've had significant challenges with respect to being able to export that oil, and they've been a petro country for quite some time. Venezuela's involvement with oil goes way back to the beginning of the 1900s. And at one point in time, they were certainly the richest country in Latin America. And now it's a very, very difficult situation that they find themselves in with the embargoes and, of course, the continued efforts by the United States to see a change in control in that country, wanting, of course, no doubt, a government in place that would be more friendly to U.S. interests. And it will be interesting to see how this, of course, continues to pan out. The Chavez and now Maduro regimes have been holding on for some time, and they have traditionally gotten support from the likes of Russia, the likes of China. As to how that is going to continue to be seen, we'll have to wait and see how this military ramping up is going to, in fact, have any impact at all. Is it a plan to perhaps force negotiations or to create greater scare? I don't know. We'll have to really wait and see what is the long-term plan in respect of Venezuela. But we have seen, of course, in the case of the U.S. and Iran, quite recently, action being taken there in respect of Iran's nuclear program. We saw hits on Iranian facilities, these famous bunker-busting bombs being dropped in Iran. The United States has a tremendous arsenal of firepower, missiles, and it will be interesting to see what the plan is, if any at all. But quite unlikely, I think, that there would be an actual strike or hit in this regard. How that would play out internationally for the U.S. to be taking an unprovoked military action in the case of Venezuela, that I think is going to be pretty unlikely at the moment. But we don't know. We've seen other things happen in the past, and it is going to be a wait and see game in that regard. As to whether there's any truth about the matter of interdiction of drugs, well, that too, we can only hope to see some results in that regard. But like I mentioned, the real work that is done in terms of drug interdiction tends to be that done by the U.S. Coast Guard. I'm not sure that they've ramped up efforts in those waters. Maybe they have. Maybe they're silently doing a lot more in the Caribbean Sea. But of course, it's a guessing game in that regard. We have seen, of course, a lot of effort in terms of the U.S. and that of Mexico, and the efforts there have led to some successes. But we've also known that the whole idea of using drugs as a justification for certain action has been done by President Trump in the past. This is the justification that was used very early on, remember, for Canada and slapping tariffs on Canada, because the suggestion was that Canada was a source of opioids coming into the United States of America. And of course, the Canadians are saying the reality is that there's probably a greater flow, a contraflow out of the United States into Canada than the other way around. And this was also used as a justification for tariffs on China as well, I believe. So the whole use of drugs, quote unquote, coming through and trying to stem the flow of drugs has been used to justify economic actions. And apparently now it's also being utilized to justify actions in terms of military presence in the Caribbean Sea off the coast of Venezuela. In many instances, of course, the Trump administration has been called out on these matters. And the other issue, too, is if, in fact, there is going to be a commitment regarding dealing with crime, when is there going to be a commitment in terms of dealing with the gun issue in the United States of America and the ease with which individuals can own guns? And of course, it's a constitutional matter. We've heard lots of people defending the rights to bear arms, being a fundamental right of every American. But at the same time, we're also witnessing the country, the most developed country in the world, with the highest rate of homicides and gun violence. And when you compare the U.S. to that of nearly every other OECD country, whether it's Japan, whether it's the UK, all around, they have a serious issue with guns. And we're seeing it especially in terms of shootings in schools. We're seeing it in terms of shootings in malls and some very heightened areas of violence in inner cities. So, and that is also having the impact of creating the availability of guns into the Caribbean, which of course is leading to a lot of problems that we're seeing right now by virtue of these cheap guns and easily available guns being illegally exported out of the United States of America and reaching our shores and reaching the hands of criminal elements right here in St. Lucia and the Caribbean. And in addition to that, of course, there's been a long history of gun trading and providing of guns into the region. And of course, it is still a matter that Central America has been grappling with for many, many years. The high presence of guns in Honduras and El Salvador and Nicaragua has caused for a lot of criminal activity, very high homicide rates in these countries, and of course a lot of them coming out of civil wars, in part connected with the efforts of regime change and the Cold War era, of course, with which the United States was one of the players. So it is certainly going to be difficult to disarm the region, but it is certainly something that is needed as we look towards trying to achieve a safer, more peaceful Caribbean. And as to whether missile-bearing warships are going to help us in this regard, well, I think is perhaps not going to be the case, but let's hope for the best nonetheless. That's our dish of the day, and we are going to take in our weather report at this time.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Every bed in our hospitals tells a story of someone's mother, someone's brother, someone's friend. And when that story of care is complete, it's time for the next chapter, home. But too often, discharged patients are left waiting hours, days, weeks, sometimes months, not because they want to stay, but because no one comes. We understand life gets busy, but every extra day they wait means another patient, perhaps in pain, perhaps in crisis, can't get the bed they desperately need. So when the call comes that your loved one is ready, please be ready too. Pick them up, bring them back to the comfort of family, where healing truly continues. Because caring doesn't end at discharge, it continues with you. A message from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs.
It's now time for your weather report, brought to you by Island Style.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with these tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle-dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And the forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between east, northeast, and east near 16 miles per hour or 26 kilometers per hour, becoming lighter at times. Weather, fair skies becoming cloudy at times with a few scattered showers. Forecast for the Lesser Antilles: partly cloudy to cloudy with scattered showers and thunderstorms over the far southern Windward Islands. Elsewhere, fair and hazy, becoming cloudy at times with a few scattered showers. An approaching weak tropical wave is producing increased periods of cloudiness, some scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms across the far southern portion of the Lesser Antilles during the forecast period. The atmosphere over the rest of the Eastern Caribbean remains significantly moist and marginally oh wow. Oh, sorry about that. And marginally unstable. Another tropical wave is located over the eastern tropical Atlantic. And is moving 6 miles per hour or 9 kilometers per hour.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. And you can also call in to our WhatsApp number, that is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. Just very quickly, an announcement coming out of the Cultural Development Foundation. Of course, they're pretty busy at this time, as you would know, and that is because there is Carib Festo over in Barbados, but there's also another cultural festival happening here in St. Lucia, and that is La Wars. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but we have got a call. Somebody's waiting on the line. Good afternoon, and welcome to the lunchroom.
Good afternoon, Mr. George.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Yeah.
And what's on your plate today?
Not much. Before Maduro was Chavez in Venezuela.
Yes, before Maduro was Chavez.
Yes, Chavez. And America tried their best to destroy Chavez. Uprising upon uprising, everything they try to destroy Chavez. Now it's Maduro. They tell you Maduro is a drug cartel. So what Chavez was it?
Oh, I suppose he might have been the same, according to the U.S. I'm not sure what the accusations were.
Well,
I can't recall.
And Analytica tell you, if you keep throwing the dirt, it will stick.
Yeah, well, sometimes you create the dirt too.
If you keep throwing the dirt at somebody, it will stick.
Well,
and that's
yeah.
what America is doing. They know it very well. That's why they go in Panama. It's Panama, Colombia. And they take one, the drug baron. They said it was a drug baron and they sent troops. And there was war on the street of Panama.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a long history of I guess, the Monroe Doctrine and trying to gain control over and influence, economic influence in the first instance, and sometimes political control in the Americas. And in fact, quite recently, just I think just maybe a couple of weeks ago, there's a whole matter regarding Chiquita in Panama, and I think they, in fact, just had to dismiss nearly 1,300 of their workers on their fields, on their farms in Panama. They've got very large banana farms there, and because of issues with pensions and what have you, they've pretty much dismissed. I think that was the last bit of the staff that they had, and they pretty much let everybody go after they had already sent home, I think, over 4,000 workers. So definitely some that it is really inimical of the presence of U.S. corporations, U.S. business interests in the region. I mean, we've heard of the banana republics, right? In Honduras, right? And that has been a very well established method of control. And this is what I mean in the case of Hawaii.
Most of that bananas go straight to America. Most of those big farm bananas, That's why they try to destroy the West bananas, because most of those bananas they grow in South America goes in America. If it have to ship out, it ship out from America.
Yeah, it's possible, but a lot of it goes to Europe as well. So they go all around the world.
America ship it to Europe.
Right, and of course they've been looking at markets for their business, but control of land is a major issue in these countries as well. A lot of land, in fact, I think in Venezuela is owned by a lot of British families. Over the years, Europeans have come to South America. They've bought up a lot of the land resources. Of course, the interest in mining
Venezuela was one of the key country for bananas. The biggest banana in South America was Venezuela.
Yeah, maybe so. I think in Colombia, Ecuador. Ecuador is a major one at the moment. Yeah, so they all have a lot of interest from out of the United States and Europe. And it's how do you balance those interests, right? In today's world, we've seen the same right here.
What Chavez used to do, Chavez used to help Cuba a lot in oil and all sorts of things,
right?
And that's why America so hate Venezuela. Venezuela come to his knees, one of the rich countries in South America. And they end up eating in garbage bin.
I think anywhere there has been any kind of suggestion of socialism, in the case of Latin America, the United States has been very jittery. So, generally, of course, they've been very anti-communism, but anti-socialism as well. We're seeing even with respect to, let's say, Lula in Brazil, right? And we're seeing the treatment that Brazil is receiving at the moment is not the best. I mean, he's pretty much trying to protect tropical Trump, Mr. Bolsonaro, by saying that, the court matter against Mr. Bolsonaro should not go forward. And it's really interference, external interference in a Brazilian judicial.
Because America take a position in Venezuela and make him president and send him back to take Venezuela.
Well, there was that too. Yes, Mr. Juan Guaido. You're talking about
Juan Guaido. That's the man.
Yeah. So that we've seen these types of methods, of course, having individuals to. Which they want to have in power to effectively support their interests. So they engage in regime change in different ways, sometimes very clandestinely through supporting of the certain political parties or certain interests. So there's a lot of those machinations that go on behind the scenes.
Let them do their things, but you see little St. Lucia and those countries there, the CARICOM countries, we depend on the tourists. We are holiday islands. The tourists bringing out the dollars, and we don't want nothing to do with America, helping America to destroy Venezuela.
Well, the majority of our tourists are coming from the United States, though, caller. So I don't know about that part. But thanks very much for your contribution, of course. And thanks to that. In fact, in the case of Cuba, for example, their tourism had been very strongly buoyed by Canadian and Latin American and Spanish interests. making investments in Cuba. And we've certainly been seeing, even right in the case of St. Lucia, a lot of the investment is coming out of other regions, Jamaica, in the case of Sandals, for example, and Mexico, a lot of Mexican interest, a lot of, at one point, British interest as well. So investment coming from a number of countries. Even now, we're seeing with some of the new players like Isla, primarily having Turkish interests. And Turkey is, of course, a major visitor destination at this point in time. It is a major destination, formerly Asia, formerly part of the Byzantine Empire or the Roman Empire. Lots and lots of history there, or the Greek Empire, lots of old cities, historic areas. Of course, Istanbul, which was formerly Constantinople, is now a mega city and is one of the leading hubs in terms of visitor movements. Massive airport recently opened over there. Let's take a call at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today? Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, how are you doing, Mr. George?
Good, thank you. How are you doing, sir?
All right.
Yes, I'm good, thanks.
Well, the other man asked a big question, eh? Well, and he laughed. You know, all our tourists coming from there.
Yes, indeed.
And he still say, well, we're taking a stand. No, that one boy, we might have to don't take a stand, end up sitting that one out, you know. Because, I mean, yeah, you know, you know, history is replete with examples of, you know, you remember Salvador Allende?
Yes.
You ever heard the name?
I've heard the name, yes.
The Marxist leader in Chile?
Yes.
Eh?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and the man had some serious reform programs, you know, to level the playing ground as far as distribution of wealth and so on.
Right.
They brand the man Marxist, and
yep.
you know, and they went at the man. The people themselves turned on the man, and you know, and they set up Augusto Pinochet.
Yes.
That notorious killer.
You
know, who run there for the next 18 years or so, you know, or 16, 18 years. You know? Yeah, that's what they do. You know, they had, well, you remember they had Somoza, I think, in El Salvador?
Oh, I don't remember that name, but yes, but...
The Sandinista.
Yes, okay.
Right? And Sandinista, you know, who come and then they move the Sandinista and they have the guy there now.
Yeah.
You know? So they always get the guys in place. Look, Trump said now he might even go, he might want thing for himself. Panama. Because Panama let in too many Chinese.
The Panama Canal.
Too much Chinese traffic through.
Yes.
You might want to control it.
Yes, of course.
So, and I mean, we see what they're doing to Lula.
Yeah, and at the same time, the Chinese are looking to see if they can get another canal through Nicaragua.
I mean, imagine you telling a sovereign country, don't go, you know, the judiciary, the judicial system must submit to you.
Yeah.
They cannot bring things to back.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Bolsonaro.
After all these things this man did.
Yeah.
You know, and they tell it that they actually want to, you know.
You know, Latin America is such an interesting place because it's the part of Latin America and the Caribbean is where you have the most inequality. It is a really a legacy of European colonialization, 500 years of European colonialization, and you've got great levels of inequality. And then, of course, on top of that, even in the post-independence era, you had a lot of Europeans coming in, right? Especially into Brazil and Argentina, and had creating an even greater disparity there in terms of the wealth between on the basis of race, and so you've always had, it would appear, fertile ground for socialist values. You know, people wanting to see greater justice and balance and equality. But at the same time, you've had that going on, and then you've had the country that went and got independence first from the British. They always seeming to want to suppress any kind of moves towards anything that is too radical or too socialist. So it's been this sort of back and forth, you know, between, you know, these ideologies.
Because remember, thing was branded a Marxist, and that kept him out for a number of years. You know.
Where are you talking about? In which country?
J.D. Jigan in Guyana.
Well, yes, of course, yes, right. Yeah.
He finally came back there, you know, and it's right now it's become more like an ethnic and racial kind of, you know. But, Forbes Burnham facilitated them to get rid of thing. Forbes Burnham himself was an ally of J.D., you know, and he facilitated them, you know. Then you had Maurice Bishop.
Right.
I mean, Maurice Bishop was not even nothing close to a Marxist. Hence the reason why he was on the brink of attempting to have an election, you know, when they overthrew him.
Okay.
But they already said to say, well, no. He done set up that whole, you know, socialist kind of thinking. They have to nip it in the bud and clean it out, you know. So they had to go there in a show of force, you know. And that is, so virtually they made that so-called revolution destroy itself.
Right. And of course, at that time, you had players who were sympathetic to the U.S. as well.
There you go. You had Eugenia Charles.
Yes.
We've seen the same kind of thing on a different level there with Bosasa and Venezuela. Yeah? Hello?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, where he's virtually inviting them to come in.
Right.
In the name of crime. The same thing was saying, in the name of democracy, come in and remove this guy there.
Yes.
And, the main architects of that invitation was, what's her name, Eugenia Charles and Edward Siaga. You know what I'm saying? Edward Siaga was behind that a lot too. To come in, man. And if you allow that spread, all islands will want to.
I suspect in the case of Trinidad too, there may very well be a bit of a political play in that. And I'm just speculating to some degree, but we did see that the PNM was allowing for Venezuelans, refugees, to be able to come in and to be, regularized. And I wonder if there was a concern by the UNC that it would, if they become citizens and they can vote and what have you, it sort of shifts the balance of power towards the PNM. I don't know if that was part of the thinking there, or part of the concern that she may be seeing. I'm not sure, but it's also something to look into in terms of the internal politics of Trinidad and Tobago as well. I know, for example, back when Patrick Manning was investing quite a lot into housing in all across Trinidad and Tobago, he was being accused.
Alex, we'll have to look and see how far states will push these other little islands, Dominica, the Dominicans, Roosevelt Skerritt, Philip de Pierre, and what's the name in Barbados again?
Well, remember already they're being
Ralph Gonzalez and them.
Already there's pressure on them to bring in.
Already they put in, yeah.
Well, no, but to bring in refugees, to bring in deportees. There's the U.S.
kind of thing,
the U.S. is looking for third parties to.
In time to come.
Yeah.
In time we'll see how hard America will push, and what the pushback, if any, is going to be, because I don't think the pushback could match. Will be able to match the push, by
Yeah.
America, and why I say that is because the politics of pragmatism, doing what for survival.
Yeah.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Might become the politics of the day. So, in other words,
What I think is somewhat concerning too.
Very well, these people might be very well the ones behind, because you see in the nature, the kind of campaign, the opposition, and you've seen the similarities, the likeness of it too.
Right.
The party that run in America.
Mm-hmm.
You could see the sameness, and that it has found favor, and the leadership and all with them.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's not the local vote might matter at the end of the day, who vote for this government and things. But what America wants, but that's a sad day.
Interesting indeed.
Yeah, Calix. But Calix, what about Laos? You'll be in a group for
I don't think I'll be able to make it down to Labrie, unfortunately.
So why
because
you don't want
But I have been to some of the more recent ones in Castries and in Grosile.
As what? As
No, not as
onlooker?
As an onlooker.
No, man, you must get your uniform, man, and
okay,
and be in the thing on the thing with the people, man. Identify with the roots, man.
Oh, okay. I look into it. Something to do next year then. All right then. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Caller, have a good one. My great grandmother was a Marguerite, so I don't know if that I should be going to Laos, but let's see anyways. But can we squeeze in one quick call? Let's see if we can do so. Good afternoon. Okay, yes. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Yes, good afternoon. Yeah, as you mentioned about Latin America and the inequality, of course, you had revolutionaries like Simón Bolívar.
Yes.
Who was active in several countries in South America.
Yes.
But then we must also remember that the St. Lucian Baptist Bido also played a role because of his connection to Simón Bolívar.
Yes, indeed. Very, very correct. And in fact, there are still people in Venezuela, especially in the La Guira town, that can trace their heritage, their roots to St. Lucia. Because Jean-Baptiste Bido, in fact, corralled people, brought soldiers from St. Lucia and St. Vincent, especially the old veterans of the Revolutionary War, to fight in Venezuela during that the Bolivarian Revolution. So certainly, we were very much part of the efforts of liberation of the Americas in that regard. Thanks very much for pointing that out, caller. And I think that's a very good point to end on, especially as we speak of Laos, because we say that Laos, La Marguerite, quite often was the means by which people sort of identified and made some level of jest and humor over the divisions of the time, the royalists and the republicans of the age, and they created these camps, of course, to have some good fun. And so, of course, there'll be some of that fun happening down in the village of Labrie. That will be the center point of festivities taking place from tomorrow, August the 30th. And Labrie, of course, already a very culturally significant part of the country. And the day will begin with a church service from 10 o'clock. It'll be celebrated by Father Ignatius St. Tooth. And we know he has a lovely voice, and there'll be lots of singing and serenading from Laos groups from all over the country: Choiseul, Vieux-Fort, Montchiche, Montrepos, Olio, Grand Rivière, Dennery, Lacouville, Micoud, and of course Labrie. And at 12 o'clock, there will be a street parade, a grand parade in the community of Labrie. And that will all culminate for about 1:30 on the Labrie playing field, Crossover Park, I think it's called. So certainly that'll be a very lovely festivity indeed. I can see it already right by the waterfront of Labrie, and it is definitely something to take in. I'm not sure. I'll see if I can make it, but definitely have to see if we can work that one out. And so we do hope that you can make it as well down in Labrie for Fête La Wars. I'm your host, Alex George Jr., wishing you a wonderful weekend. Take care.
#1 FM. Make back to school shopping easy with Court